Do you want to know the study secrets of Jerry Zhang, a grade 11 student who scored 100% on his AP exams, one of only 6 students out of 400,000 to earn a perfect score? Before I reveal his secrets, does this sound familiar? It's test time and you do what every student does. You read your notes, you highlight, maybe reread the textbook once or twice. It feels like studying, but when the test comes, blank, nothing, zilch. Your brain has betrayed you again. Why does this happen? Now pay attention because this is essential. Studying doesn't work because studying only pushes info into your brain, whereas tests require you to pull information out of your brain. These are two completely different skills. So if studying doesn't work, what should you do instead to stop losing unnecessary marks? Well, if you want to be like Jerry and be in the top 0.000015%, yes, I did the math. If you want to understand Jerry's secret, then the first thing you have to do is understand how your brain works. So let's dive right in. You have to imagine your brain is like a hiking trail. The first time you try to walk through a dense forest, it's a mess. Branches everywhere, no clear path. And that's really kind of what it's like when you first learn something. Your brain is struggling to make a connection, to use this metaphor, to clear a path through the forest to the information that you need to know for the test. The more you walk that path, the clearer it becomes. You stomp the grass down, you cut down the obstacles, you get rid of extra branches, and soon enough, that dirt path turns into a paved road and eventually a superhighway. Because the more you clear that path and the more you walk that path, the larger it becomes. And that's really how your brain works. To learn anything, you really need what I call the 2 R's: repetition and recall. Remember those for later. The first question you're probably asking now is, why does this matter to me? And it matters to you as a student because Jerry's method will boost your grades, make studying a lot easier. You'll no longer have to pull those all-nighters. Thirdly, you're going to save a ton of free time because you'll remember more in less time and have more time for extracurriculars, time with your friends. And fourth, it'll give you more confidence. You're not going to be stressed walking into tests. You will walk into tests with the confidence knowing you know how to answer the questions and get those hundreds. So those 2 R's are how learning really works. And this is what Jerry did. He simply used the 2 R's, which I will now refer to as active recall, which is basically trying to force your brain to spit out information. And he used spaced repetition, which is basically studying in shorter, frequent sessions over a longer period of time. And now that you know Jerry's super simple secret, I'm going to walk you step by step for how you can apply this method to your studies. Get a pencil out. You're going to want to write this down. So the first is to read something once. Pick a concept, a definition, a question, whatever it happens to be, and just read it over once. No excessive rereading. And that leads us into step 2, which is to close your notes and say it in your own words. Without looking, try to explain this concept or definition to a 5-year-old. And the key thing here is you're going to struggle through it. Because you're so used to just memorization, putting it in your own words after only reading it once is going to feel like a struggle. But that is the key secret. The struggle means you're making connections. And if you get stuck, it's good. So you have to embrace the struggle rather than the easy studying before where you just memorize and repeated information. Now, this leads us to step 3, which is once you've said it in your own words, write it down or even try to teach it to somebody. Take out a blank piece of paper and literally write down your definition, explain that concept, or better yet, try to teach it to somebody. Whether it's a friend, a family member, your dog, or if you have no one around, just explain it into your voice recorder and listen to it back. Because teaching and writing something down forces your brain to organize it in a way that it will remember. And now moving on to step 4, those first 3 steps were active recall. What I want you to do is, after you've done this for about 20 or 30 minutes, to take a break and come back to it maybe an hour or so later. You're probably used to 4, 5, 6 hour study sessions where it feels like you learn anything because you repeat it again and again and again and again. But when you come back to your studying after 20 or 30-minute break, your brain will probably have forgotten it. And when you repeat those first 3 processes of reading it out, talking it out, and then writing it out, your brain is again going to struggle. It's going to feel like an uphill battle as you try to take that information out of your brain instead of stuffing it full of information. But this is really that second R, spaced repetition in practice. The more you can study a certain concept, the more likely it's going to stick into your brain. And Jerry's fifth step is ultimately to test yourself regularly. Instead of pulling that all night cramming session, what you should do instead is when your teacher says there's going to be a test in a week, don't study for 7 hours the night before, study 1 hour every single day, and even break that hour up into smaller 20-minute chunks so you really get that active recall and spaced repetition. So hopefully you notice the big theme with that is with all of those steps, except for the first, which is you just read a concept, is Jerry really took the time to struggle to get information out of his brain instead of trying to cram more and more in there. And this is why most students waste their time studying, because your tests are not asking you to put more information in. They're asking you to take that information out and put it on a page. So if you're tired of studying and not getting the results you want, you can't keep doing the same thing expecting different results. We all know the definition of insanity. You need something new, and this is it. And you may have another question. Does this work for all subjects? Yes. Memorization, specific subjects that have lots of multiple choice, obviously great for active recall. But what about math? Instead of passively reading formulas, try to solve problems without actually looking at the steps and then grade yourself after, because that's still the magic of active recall and spaced repetition. What about thematic heavy subjects like English? Of course, even if you're writing essays, maybe jot down major themes from your book, do your best to remember how they were developed throughout the story, and then come back to it later to make sure that the answers are correct. So those two R's, active recall and spaced repetition, will work for every single subject. So here's the challenge I want you to take on for the next month. When you're studying, don't just read, recall and repeat. Space out your study sessions. Don't have, again, a 5-hour marathon. Break that up into smaller chunks. And even break those smaller chunks into smaller ones. Study one concept for 10 minutes, move on to another, and then move on to concept C. Go back to concept 1 and see if you remember it. Work with your friends to study the material and quiz each other on it. If you do this for a month, I promise you, you are likely to get grades that you didn't even think possible. It's going to feel like a struggle, but I promise the effort is well worth it. This method is your shortcut to higher grades. If you feel like you're getting value from this video, please consider giving subscribe down below. It would be the highlight of my teaching career. And if you want to take your new study method of recall and repetition to a new level, you should actually start using AI to make practice quizzes. And this video right here will show you just how to do that. So take care. I'll see you in the next one.